Hey y'all, welcome to the broadcast. Today is Friday, May 24th. Made it to the end of the week. And I will tell you, yesterday evening when I got home, the bottom fell out and it came an absolute gully washer. Apparently the same thing happened here. It's really washed all that area that we worked clean of most of the marks. And I'm happy to see there's not a whole lot of puddling. Let's see if I can just walk down here without sinking to my knees. Oh yeah. See, this is where slicking it up real smooth helps a lot. It's tacky, but not bad. I've really only got a couple of things I want to get done today. I definitely want to get a new burn pit dug about 8 feet from the original burn pit. I want to stack up this brush a little bit better. The thing I've got to think about is I'm going to dig out a big burn pit because I don't know how much brush is going to come out and grubbings that I've got to bury from the road we're getting ready to build. Right now I'm standing kindly in the middle of where the burn pit's going to go. So as I talk, I'm just going to spin around so you guys can see what's around me. And this does need to take just a little bit of planning because I need to be able to dig this pit out and stockpile my clay somewhere. So number one, I've got to be able to dig it out and put the clay where it's going to be out of the way, but I've also got to be able to drive the machine up onto that pile and compact it so it doesn't become waterlogged in the time it's just sitting there and become mush that can't be used for anything. Then the next priority, I've got to be able to ideally sit in one spot with the excavator, grab out of the brush pile and load it into the burn pit and burn it as I go with minimal movement. That's key in keeping the costs for this customer down since they've been gracious enough to pay me by the hour. Then the next thing is spinning around this way. The new road build is going to be up that ridge line there. So I've got to be able to bring out brush and wood and grubbings and bring it down here and put it where it needs to go in an order that makes sense. In planning for the road, it's going to go across the culverts and at a steep angle. Therefore, we're going to be bringing material out this way and coming up. And it makes sense to me with the skid steer to put the main travel way right in the middle. So we don't want to block this with a big pile of dirt. I want to be able to run straight to that pit with the skid steer, dump the brush and stuff into the fire and keep it burning. Also, if we hit a dry spell and I need to just stockpile brush, once the hole is full, it'll be easy just to kind of veer around this corner and stockpile it where I've been putting it. I'm going to dump this hydraulic tilt bucket off and put my digging bucket on to work today. Quick tip, this hydraulic bucket, just like any other hydraulic attachment, can be hard to get those quick couplers to hook up, and that's because the pressure inside of those lines, for whatever reason, is putting pressure on the outlets and it won't let you push them together. So one tip that I do is put pressure on the boom like that, turn your idle down, kill the engine, turn the key back to the first click, give it a second. All right, now just lightly work all your controls. Now, you can't just work just the bucket because, and I'm not sure how this works, but any pressure in the system can somehow put pressure to those fittings. So what you want to do is I'll pull both of my toggles back and I'll make a couple of circles with the joysticks in both directions. Then I'll push those. They're rocker switches is what they are. Now push them the other way. Same thing. Okay. Put your, let's see, I don't know why my blade's not dropping. Probably because I hadn't worked it today. So I'm going to go ahead and start back up. Let's see here. Okay. Kill the engine. Back on. Okay, now you want to get all the pressure off the system, and my rocker switch on the left runs that bucket control, but I have to change it over. See that little, I don't know if you saw it move, but I had to hit that button for it to release the pressure on the actual bucket. Now, I got a whole other function I'm having to bleed off. Alright. Now, the last thing you'll notice is, and you guys can't see it, but I'm under a really big tree with a really big canopy, and I've been watching while I've been doing this job, and this is a spot that is shaded all day long. So the temperature change is not going to be that great. When you drain these lines, it can introduce a little bit of air into that system, and air is what will expand and contract with temperature change. The worst case scenario is when it's cooler, and when you go to hook back up, those lines have been in the sun, and the hydraulics have been in the sun. So any air in there is expanding, and it's putting a lot of pressure on those fittings. Now, if after all this you go to hook up your implement, and I put my grapple in the shade, and I do all of this with every attachment that I have that runs on hydraulics. If this doesn't work, most of the time when you go to get into the machine, after you hook up the implement, before you go to hook the lines up, do this same thing to release pressure on the system that's on the machine. When you go to hook those lines up to the machine and they're really just not wanting to go on, it's almost like they're not fitting. If that's not happening, if you're unable to push those on, most of the time it's on the attachment side. And that's why I keep 2 wrenches on every job. And what I will do is I will crack the threads where the quick coupler threads onto the line. Now what you'll need to do is crack it enough all the way, because I've noticed, like a flat face that has a washer, a rubber washer, when you crack it a little bit, that pressure, you'll see that rubber washer bulge. And if you don't release it completely and you just tighten it right back up, you'll pinch that rubber washer. Next thing you know, you've got a little bit of a leak, and you're like, oh, it was loose, and you tighten it up, and each time you tighten it, you're ruining that washer more and more. I know this is long-winded, but this is a subject that gives new operators more of a fit, I feel like, than anything. You'll be straining your guts out to try to get that thing to hook up. So you crack those fittings, let the pressure completely off, and then tighten them back. And you don't have to tighten it more than a quarter turn. You don't have to really wrench all these fittings back together. If on the attachment side it still doesn't want to go on, then you can try to crack the fittings on the machine. But by working the controls and everything, you should release any pressure on the system. Let's do some diggy digging. These blocks, all that in there is where a bunch of grubbins is buried and a whole bunch of junk, like I said. So I'm going to track straight down to this other block to make marks with my tracks. Now I've got about an 8-foot wide separator. So that'll be my wall. My pit's going to be on this side. I'm also going to leave enough of a path between that brush pile and the beginning of the pit to where if I need to, I can drive a machine between there. So you can see where I've already driven the machine through there once. So let's go, just to be safe. And so I don't have a straight drop-off wall. I'll be digging this pit, this end, at a slope That'll give me a path down into the pit. And also, if an animal or person falls into the pit over the weekend while I'm gone, they've got an easy way to get out. So I'll dig this slope down to depths, and once I get to depths, we'll just be able to dig a straight off pit. You notice I've got my blade facing that way. This ground's not so hard that I need it in front of me to dig. Oh, here it just hit rock. Let's hope that's not a sign. I've got the blade that way, so as I pile it up, once I get a few buckets, I'll be able to push a ramp up and just kind of ramp up toward the sky, and we'll end up with our pile down there. I'll just do a few minutes of digging. I myself watch other digging. Uh-oh. That's a big rock. We might be relocating. We'll just have to see. Fuel up all the way. Turn eco off. You don't want to get too greedy. I'm going to push this pile down a ways before I start ramping up. Just lift that blade and she'll ramp. Honestly, don't remember why I had this pile of junk and grubbins where it's at, but we'll just move it to the side for now. I really need to get this. Oh, that's the root matting from that huge tree we did a couple episodes ago. That's what that is. I set it down here where it get full sun and dry out to where I could beat the dirt off of it. So I don't want to bury any of that. This is the best road building slash pond dam building clay. It's been a challenge ever since I've been on this job. As far as packing up in the bucket, one thing I do to try to help with that is once I dig my first initial hole like this, see, it'll pack up in there and you got to bang the bucket to get it to come out. After you dig that first initial bucket, I'll flat bottom the bucket, and instead of going down in the ground like this and curling and pulling at the same time and pulling it into the dirt really hard, that's what really mashes it in there. What I'll do is flat bottom that bucket and just pull the stick pretty well straight toward me, trying to keep the bottom of the bucket flat. And I'll just bump it, but I don't pack it into that bucket, and I'll lift straight up. And you're not going to be able to get real packed full buckets, but it's going to save you and your customers time in the long run, because you can see there I didn't really collect any more. And I'll go down about 6 inches, pull another grab, lift straight up, and I don't curl until I'm coming up out of the ground. And you don't want to bang the bucket every time, but you want to invert it almost all the way. And see, even then, I've got a little bit packed in there. So just go ahead, and I prefer tapping with the thumb. Those pins are a lot smaller, a lot cheaper than banging the pins and bushings on the bucket and the stick. So I'm going to dig on this a few thousand. what seems like it's going to be thousands of buckets to get this hole big enough. Then we'll do some skid steer work to push that pile on up. I've got a good start on our burn pit here. I got the skid steer sitting there so you guys can kind of get an idea how much dirt I've dug out. Pretty good bit. I haven't spent a whole lot of time on it. But it's moving along. That dirt's digging out pretty fast. Especially, you get a rhythm going and you can really pull dirt out of a hole even with a smaller machine like this. Now in this case, having like a 315 or a 317, I would not mind it. But bigger machines, in all, they move fast. They move material faster, but they're slower, and I enjoy these machines that move fast. I guess it just depends on what you like and what you're used to. I've only got about 30 more minutes to work today. I'm going to go ahead and quit off here. I've got a big enough hole right now that if I want to start burning on Monday and it's too wet to do anything else, that's what I can do. Before I leave today though, I definitely want to pile that brush up. I really wanted to pile it up yesterday before that rain moved through, but I don't think they got too much rain down here, and that pile's looking pretty dry. So I'm gonna run on over there and get that stacked up, and we'll be ready for Monday. So let's do this the expressway. I can reach. Yep. Just have to do a little bit of tracking. Got a little bit of dirt in that pile, didn't I? Get some of that dirt out. Oh yeah. I'll leave that dirt down there, because I don't want a chance of getting it mixed in with my stuff I'm trying to start the fire with. All of that still looks pretty green. What was that? Fines, I guess. Some heavy stuff, I know that. There's a bunch of fines. God, look at the mosquitoes pouring out of there. I don't know if y'all can see them, but there'll be a lot. That didn't want to get up there on top, did it? That's some bigger stuff right there. We'll leave it on the bottom. Pretty fair sized pile of brush. But not least, while this excavator cools off, I'm gonna jump on the skid steer and I'm going to push that pile up into more of a cone shape, track it in so water sheds off,